Hello everyone. In today's video, I would like to give you a general overview of the SAP Business One service layer, which in today's era, when we see more and more companies and businesses migrating to the cloud, is becoming a key component when developing applications and services for small and medium businesses and also for small and medium enterprises. So our video will be a two-part video coverage when we will first be covering some basic service layer concepts. I'll be describing some of the service characteristics, underlying architecture, and also discuss some important prerequisites. Whereas the second part will be mostly dedicated to showcasing how the service layer could be utilized alongside with the M365 and Power Platform tools, such as Power Automate, to connect your third-party applications to the service layer and ultimately consume SAP Business One objects and entities. So let's get started, and I hope you make the best out of those two videos. So the service layer is built on the DI core technology, which is also the foundation of the DI API and DI server. These are all API extensions, and they share similar business object definitions. However, the service layer is quite unique in the sense that it is OData compliant data service, and it enables easy web mashups and a comfortable add-on development in various programming languages. It is very lightweight and provides much faster results than the legacy DI API and DI servers. So for those of you who never used the B1 service layer, like I said, it's a RESTful API. It's no different than any other RESTful API you've worked with. And it serves as a bridge between the B1 core and the external services and apps that you're developing. The second thing that I also covered is the OData features. So it allows for a much more structured way of querying your database. It enables you to do filtering, sorting, pagination, and all sorts of other cool features that are being supported by OData. And lastly, we have the ability to authenticate against the service layer in several ways that I'm also going to be showcasing to you while we are going through the specification in those videos. A little bit about the architecture. Just so you get like the bird's eyes for how the service layer is operating. So the service layer uses the Apache HTTP server, and that server is served as a load balancer. We also call it a central load balancer, and it's basically a transit point between the client itself and the various load balancer members. When I'm discussing load balancer members, it's actually a synonym for high availability, because if the primary load balancer detects that one of its nodes is failed, it selects another valid node and federates subsequent requests onto that node without any user interruption. The user will not even need to do a re-login, and let's just say that the worst thing that could happen is that there might be a slight delay. So it's very important to know that how this architecture is working. I think it's also best depicted here in that schema. So you can see that the service layer actually is very susceptible to the number of requests, to the load that is being put on it by the users or by the calls that are done by the users, and that load balancer, that central load balancer, is federating the requests to all the load balancer members. The second point is that, of course, SAP Business One could be also for SQL and also for HANA databases. The service layer supports, well, first when it got created, it only supported HANA databases. But as of release 10.0, patch level 01, it also supports SQL databases. And even now, it's supporting OData version 4, which allows for more features. So as you can see, the service layer is good also for both HANA and SQL databases. Lastly, it's important to say that it really doesn't matter if you're running your SAP Business One in the cloud or on-premise, you can install and configure the service layer for these both environments, so you're good to go. A little bit about the advantages of the service layer. The service layer, as I said, it's really lightweight. It's much faster than the legacy DI API and the DI server. So it simplifies things, and it's creating a standardization of how you can interface and access a Business One data. Secondly, it allows for seamless integration with other systems and applications as a result of 0.1. The third thing is that it supports also data modeling, business intelligence, and reporting via the semantic layer for both SQL and HANA. So the semantic layer is another feature that is supported by the service layer, and it's worthwhile that you get familiarized with this tool as well. And lastly, the service layer has its own configuration control. I'm going to be showing you that controller in a minute when I'll show you how to access the service. It's also important to talk a little about the prerequisites of the service layer. So if you're running your SAP Business One in the cloud, it's also known as on demand, then the service layer endpoint eventually needs to be exposed to the web. Now, this is something that is usually done by your IT professionals. There's ways to overcome this if say like your IT professionals refuse to expose this thing. I'm not going to be covering it here, but generally speaking, for the cloud, you would want to expose that endpoint. Secondly, when you install the service layer, so during the installation process, a valid SSL certificate issued to the domain name needs to be bound to that service, and that will also secure the connection and will ensure a proper handshake using the SSL certificate. Third, we need to open up some ports. So by default, the service layer listens to port 50,000. I'm going to be showing you that in a minute. You do need to create some inbound rules and open up some ports, and also map your internal IP address to an external host name using DNS records. This is something, again, that's done by your IT professionals, but I'm just naming those prerequisites because these are things that need to be done. And of course, setting up authorization headers and activating sticky sessions. This is also referred to as session affinity. I'll be showing you how to configure that as well. So this is the list of prerequisites. Let's go ahead and see how we can actually access the service layer. So all we need to do is to basically open up a browser. And if you can see here, I'm actually entering my host name followed by colon and 50,000, which is the port number I was just mentioning. And that brings me to that page where I have two things that I can potentially look at. The first thing is the user manual. And the user manual is another way of looking at the SAP Business One Service Layer documentation and, of course, a reference guide, a good reference guide. This document is constantly being updated by SAP, and you can also find that document at help.sap.com. I think that you'll find a much more updated version there than here. And the second thing is that you would want to explore the API reference. I think this is your best friend when it comes to the service layer. So when you work with a service layer, you do want to work against that service layer API reference and learn how those objects are being read from, and how you can write those objects and create entities in SAP Business One. So that's pretty much it for how to access those resources. Before I'm wrapping up this first part of the video, if we go and change that port number to 40,000, and then select service layer controller, then we can land and see how the service layer controller is configured. So we can see all the nodes that I was mentioning before. So in my case, I have 4 nodes. These are my load balancer members. And if I scroll down, I can see some properties here that I might want to check. The first thing, in order to work with external applications, I would highly recommend you enabling course. I would highly also recommend you adding the authorization header to the course allowed headers, and the course allowed origins to star. So it accepts course from all sorts of origins. You can also use the controller to force restart the service layer in case of need, if something goes wrong. And you also have a monitor that allows you to take a look and see what kind of logs you had, and maybe do some debugging, and just to see who tried to log in and logging and log out attempts, etc. So I hope this video gave you like a good understanding, at least if it's very basic, but at least it's a good way to start about the service layer and how you can access it, and how you can access the documentation of the service layer. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to touch base. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much.